today. So on behalf of Sudheer, I have the immense pleasure of welcoming each and every one of you here at the Kuda Art Center for the launch of the book, The Guru and His CEO. So I had a glance at the book earlier and I saw something written under The Guru and His CEO, which was written, "Live your dreams and walk your values." And I'm very intrigued to know what it means. I can't wait to hear more about it, and I'm sure that Sudheer will tell us more about it. And during an interview later, we'll have more details about the book. So once again, thank you very much for being here. It's a big honor for me here. Sudheer is a very close friend. We have known one another for 30 years. Yes, I'm not even 40, but we know one another for over 30 years. He's a family friend. And I'm very proud to have a friend like Sudheer. So before we get started with the launch of the book, we'll have a very symbolical, some symbolism to start so that we can start this ceremony with the right attitude, the right approach. So we'll invite the family of Sudheer to come forward for the lighting of a lamp. So his parents, the daughters and the wife, please come forward so that we can start with the lighting of the lamp. Who don't know why we light a lamp. It's not to give light. It's not because we are trying to impress God, but the reason why we try to light a lamp is it's full of symbolism. I once asked my grandmother, why do we do it? And she said that because God needs light. No disrespect to my grandmother, but she's from a very old school. But then through the many interviews that I've done, and I've met quite a few interesting people, many times thanks to Sudheer, who's had very interesting guests at Whitefield, you start to understand the symbolism why we light a lamp. So the very act of lighting up a fire and touching it to light a lamp is because the act of doing it is we ask God as we light up this lamp to illuminate our mind in the same way. So every time that we have a very auspicious moment happening in our lives, we always ask for the guidance of God and to always illuminate us for what is happening. So this is one of the reasons why we start this ceremony today, this book launch, with the lighting of the lamp ceremony. And we thank the parents and the family of Sudheer for doing so. And you can already feel that the atmosphere is much lighter. All right, I'll try to figure this out. All right, now that we've done with the lighting of the lamps, we can have our guest of honor, the Honorable Zabir Juval, Leader of the Opposition, to come forward and deliver his keynote address. One more round of applause, please.
Present here today, ladies and gentlemen, just a few words to say that I'll start perhaps with a true story for once. Not bad from a politician, I'll start from a true story. When I joined the Ministry of Tourism in 2006, tourism was doing pretty badly. We had very limited growth, 2 or 3% growth per annum. And Sitanen was Minister of Finance at the time. We had to relaunch the economy and said, Xavier, we must get something done to relaunch tourism. So what I did, in fact, I thought that the employees, human resources, was the most important elements that we had at the ministry. So I thought, how do I get everyone hopefully motivated? Civil servants, you've got to get them motivated and out of the bed, on the right side of the bed every morning. So I bought 50 copies of a book called by Robin Sharma, a famous book called The Leader, which had no title. So I bought 50 copies of that, and I called all my colleagues at the ministry. I said, guys, we must work for the country and let's get things going. So I gave everyone a copy, and I even suggested pages, chapters that were interesting. And we had a good teamwork all along, right up to when we left in 2014. I left Ministry of Finance, but we had a good teamwork at the Ministry of Tourism. And the growth, moved from 2-3% to nearly 15% 2 years later. So it shows the power of a book, the power of a song, the power of a word, and that's perhaps proving to everyone perhaps that I believe that we need to have inspirational books, and we need to have things that can anchor us and help us to get moving and to get our colleagues moving in the right direction. And so I'm very proud to be helping to launch this book. I am not going to say much more than this, but I do believe in such books, and I also believe I'm a keen reader of Robin Sharma. I know Robin is a good friend of Sudheer as well, and following what Robin taught us, I do keep a personal diary, and in my personal diary I use words which hopefully will inspire me for the next week and for the next month, and mostly it works. So Sudheer's book is very easy to read, big characters, so it's easy to read. I think it's inspirational writing, and I like to congratulate him for writing that book. And I think it's not surprising that we get such a book from Sudheer, because I know Sudheer well now for a long number of years now. And Sudheer is someone who's disciplined. He's a hard worker, disciplined, intelligent, and enjoys innovation. So I think we'll find all this in his book, and I recommend it to you. It's your first book, I think, and we look forward to many more. Thank you very much.
Description and synopsis about the book. So, The Guru and His CEO. It's the story about Sid, who's struggling with his business, a modern-day CEO, and he has a breakthrough while sitting in his garden, contemplating on the words spoken by his guru years ago. This transformation marks the beginning of a major shift in his outlook towards life and business, and is also the debut of a thrilling life experience. But as things start to improve, he feels an irresistible urge to visit his mystic guru, where the unexpected awaits. This inspirational fable is a cascade of deep ancient wisdom, which is bound to keep the reader riveted throughout Sid's personal and entrepreneurial adventures. Contemporary issues and challenges faced by the main character will surely answer many of your life's unsolved riddles, while providing a transformational and uplifting reading experience. So I'm sure that all of you will enjoy this reading, and I remind everyone here that at the end of this ceremony today, each and every one of you will be getting a copy of the book. So if you want to have it signed also, well, the author is right here. All right, now we will we had the souvenir photo. Before we move on to the next part, where there will be an interview by Kabir, who will be asking the questions to Sudheer. Normally I'm the one asking questions. I'll let you have this time. Next time is on Encounter. But I just wanted to share some of my personal stories with Sudheer. And as the Honorable Juval rightly said, I'm not surprised at all that Sudheer came up with a book. So I was probably 7, 8 years old, and Sudheer was 12. So back then, you're 42 now, 43. It's okay. You're 28 in the heart. I remember that I was too young, but he's a friend of my sister, Deepa, and through Deepa, a friend of my elder brother, Mitesh. And I remember we were taking classes of Bal Vikas, which is the education of human values in Cupid, Larry Couvent. And he was one of the few guys I remember, even that when I was 12, 13, and youngsters, they start discovering themselves. And when they see I would say, pretty girl, they would always try to say, hey, Xanasa, hey, to say, etc. Why doesn't she talk to me? Qui fait pas prendre mon cadeau, etc. But Sudheer was one of the guys who never gave a damn about it. I never told you this. And this is probably the day that I started trusting you. Because I trust everyone until they give me a reason not to. And on that day, I got a reason not to doubt you. And through the years, you became a very good tabla player, and that inspired me also to play some tabla for 2 years. But of course, through a lot of sketches, we participated a lot into spiritual activities. So I can say that Sudheer has grown up with very high, a high level of values that he was taught. But this goes without saying that it wouldn't mean much if he did not put it into practice. But most importantly is a big round of applause to his parents for putting it on. And why I'm mentioning his parents is because where we took those classes, it was every Saturday, and we would meet on Thursdays and Sundays for the budgets. But very often after the classes, and the parents always welcomed us, irrespective of our age. We played football for many years. So, même si mon parti en camarade, I didn't have a choice. We were friends anyways. It's more than friends, and I'm very proud of it again. And congratulations again. And I can now growing up, we're both professionals in our fields. You're in the education field, and I can tell that Sudheer knew me better than I knew myself. I never knew I could have been an educator myself. I never knew I could have been a lecturer for a class. And but I never knew that all the experiences I've gathered as a journalist could mean something to someone else. And he saw that potential. And thank you again for this. So what I'm trying to say is he's someone who observes a lot. He doesn't speak much. And it is a known fact that people who do not speak a lot are the most powerful ones. And every time that when I meet him, I say, okay, I'm going to meet Sudheer for 5 minutes. But it's always half an hour, 45 minutes. And I know he's a very busy person. But if he's able to give me 30 minutes and speak, and there is no time limit on what he has to do, I always cherish this. And I learn a lot from, not because I'm in class with you, but I learn a lot from the actions that you do, the decisions that you take. And also, how you react in the face of adversity. This is where you see the true character of a person. And he's definitely someone I can trust. And he's always there to give me advice. Anyways, I could say a lot more. But if you have questions, you can ask me after. But let's move on to the question and answer part. So we'll invite Kabir in front on stage. And also Sudheer for the question and answer part. Yeah.
So Sudheer, I was privileged enough to get the book in advance. I could have a quick read to be able to ask you a few questions tonight. This book, Sudheer, talks about it's a very inspirational book. And one thing that I noticed very quickly, when I was a kid, I used to read a lot. When I was 15, 16, I used to read Krishnamurti. And it reminded me of that time. And the way you've written it and all the different stories. It's a book where it talks about one's mental state, about meditation, about inspiration, about personal focus. There's a touch of business in it, which is quite interesting. Can you tell us about the motivation of how you've come about to write this book, to write about all these values? If we can start with that.
Sure. Bonsoir tout le monde. Thank you for coming. I'm so happy to see all of you here tonight. I know you're all busy, but you took time off to come here. So I'm grateful to all of you. So many familiar faces. Thanks for making it tonight. Hello. What pushes me to write? What pushed me to write? I mean, you don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to write a book. I mean, it wasn't like this for me. Maybe for some people, but it wasn't like this for me. I actually wrote a page, and then, you've got to listen. The world speaks to you, and you've got to listen. And I wrote a page, I wrote a story, which actually is the first pages of the book. And I got like 5, 6, 7, 10 people telling me, you write well. Why don't you, write a book? And I think you got to listen. One of the skills, of a leader, and I've learned that from I'm a fan of United. Ferguson said that he was in the dressing room one day, and there was Bruce and Pallister. They were the pillars of the Manchester United defense. Great guys, and they were looking for a forward. And in the dressing room, these two guys, who were supposedly the best defenders in the league, they were saying, this guy is so good, he dribbles like this, he's like that. And they were talking about a Frenchman who was pretty unknown at that time. His name was Eric Cantona. And Ferguson said, just by listening to my two best defenders in the league, I went out and bought Eric Cantona. And he said, one of the best leadership lessons, one of the best things that great leaders should do is to listen. You speak less and you listen more. I think that's where I was like pushed, because you don't know, maybe, like, I'm not a born writer, I'm not a professional writer. That's where it started. And secondly, I was really surprised. It's only when you go back, like Job says, it's only when you go back in time that you connect the dots. So I was at home, at my parents' home, and there was these two, dustbin, huge dustbin. It was kept outside, and I opened them, and I was surprised it was filled with books. And actually, I was really surprised because I've read all those books. I think that's where the seeds of being bookish, not bookish, but loving books came from. And the last thing I would say is I wanted to share. Most importantly, I wanted to share. What to share is, in this world today, you see there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of conflicts, and but there's also a lot of resources. There's never been so much resources in the world. If you listen to your grandparents, they would walk miles to get fish. They would walk miles to collect vegetables, to get milk. Now it's available next door. Whether we have the money or not, that's another question. But there's lots, there's abundance in the world. But yet the level of unhappiness has never been so high in the world. The level of conflicts has never been so high. And in the midst of everything, I'm a very happy man. Right? I'm really, really happy. I've had 5 bad days in a year, that's all. And but I look around, I don't see that in other people. And I've collected my experience. How? Despite all the ups and downs. I'm not born with a golden spoon. I have all the ups and downs. I run a business how running a business in this country is. So despite all that, I could remain very happy and very happy. And I put down those tools that I use, the mindset that I used in the book, and I shared that with you. That's it.
It's very, very interesting, because obviously you say you're happy. I guess it's not always been like that. And when I read the book, there's conversations between various characters, and you talk about those various characters, talk about their perception of the situation that they find themselves in. And I think a lot of description of values that you bring forward in the book is via those stories with those characters. I listen to you. I think of us being here today, and 20 years ago we were playing. I've known Sudheer since a child, and we used to play music together all the time. And when I look at that history, and I look at you today, and I read this book, and to me it was a very, very powerful book because it actually talked to me, and it makes you realize, in fact, that you know the things that are being said, and it's almost questioning yourself. So you start to question your own life, and you start to question your own values. But the lives that we're living every day, we've got our jobs, we've got our businesses, we've got our family. But then when you read the book, you look at the values and you look at how you should be living your life. And I have to ask you that question. How do you go about doing that? And I ask you that because obviously when you're writing this book, I get the strong feeling that you indirectly talking about your own personal experiences. So the direct question is, how do you go about doing that? Because I find it very difficult. When I read the book, I know what I need to do, but it's a different matter of actually doing it. So maybe you can share with us what is it that you do maybe on a daily basis that has contributed mentally for you to be able to write such an enriching book?
You mean what I do on a daily basis?
Daily basis, to come to the state of how you balance the values that you tell us.
How you put that into practice and how you change yourself, right? So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I believe in that. Before I write it, I have to do it first. You cannot anyone can say it, but I think you have first to experience it, test it, and I love playing with that, test it, experiencing it. I can share with you how I implemented it in my life. I mean, since a kid, I was known for being the hot-tempered guy. I'm really, really hot-tempered.
You're going to find it very difficult to believe.
Yeah, people don't believe it today, but I was very, very hot-tempered. My high school teachers are in the crowd today, So, and the joke in the office, not the joke, but the joke in the office was if he gets angry on Monday, he'll stop being angry on Friday. That's how angry I used to be. But that's not a very good compliment. So I realized it. I looked at it and say, it's harming me more. Like the Buddha said, getting angry is like, drinking poison. So why do you get angry? Let's say, Ankesh made a mistake, So then you get angry because of that, because of how he behaves. But that's really stupid, right? Why should I get angry? Why should I spoil my mood for his stupidity? Doesn't make any sense to me. So then I started to see, how can you do that? And how can you change? And then I started a morning routine. And I get up every morning, an hour before everyone gets up at home. And I stay in a beautiful place called Cupid. It's very cold, very rainy in the morning, surrounded by trees. And I get up early morning every day, and I sit down in quietness for around half an hour, 45 minutes. I go really deep, listen to the birds, and I try to drench myself in that inner peace. And that inner peace is like a muscle. Let's say you do push-ups daily. Your biceps going to come up after some time. So I did that daily for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I think it's 7, 8, 9 years now. And I didn't miss a single day of doing that. And by drenching yourself in peace, automatically, it's like, I was like this glass. Imagine this glass is like soiled with, it contains soiled water. And if you open a tap of clean water in that, after some time, automatically all the soiled water will go out. So it's the same process that was happening with me. I was just, getting the right things in my mind, feeding myself with the right things. And over time, all this anger, all this hatred, all these negative thoughts will come out. And after doing that, then I go out and play with the kids, wake them up, and then I have a very healthy breakfast, which is under guidance of the right people. And then it's time for the kids to go. And then while having my breakfast, I also feed my mind. So I always have, instead of gossip in the morning, I learn in the morning, every morning. And then after that, I allow myself some space, 15 minutes, and then I go jogging in the woods, and then come back, and then have a shower, and then I'm set up for success. And imagine me doing that for like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Then you develop a certain mental trait which stays with you. I think that's how I changed from being a very, very angry man. Now the joke in the office is, beware of this guy. He gets angry every 6 months, but when he gets angry, he gets really angry. And I took it as a compliment because, from being angry like the whole week to once in 6 months, I think it's a progress. I'm a human being. Tomorrow you can see in Basel be fighting with someone. Yeah, it happens. I'm a human being. We're still.
How about the price of bread?
Yeah, so it could happen. Like you miss something, but yeah, that's how it is.
There's another element of the need to be inspired by somebody. I see that in the book, and I think that every person has his or her own guru. Who would you say your guru is, and where do you get inspiration to carry on? Because obviously habit is one thing. Habit creates a mental state. A mental state then creates a thinking strategy, which creates success and happiness and all the rest. But that's one aspect. Every so often, when those 6 months, when you get angry, you need that extra push. Who do you look up to be able to recalibrate and tell yourself, okay, I'm here, I was here, and I need to be there?
I think the recalibration is done daily. So once I finish my morning meditation every day, I read. I reinforce my belief. Because when you go out in the world will not allow you to lead your ideal life. The world is a place, it's a battlefield, it's a ground where you would be pushed, you would be tested, and your values would be tested. So every day, every morning, I read my set of values, and I say, no matter what, come what may, I'm not going to deviate from that. So you're going to strengthen those inner muscles within you every morning, just like you have food every morning, just like you shower every morning, just like the car needs servicing, just like you need fuel for the car. You need to reinforce those inner muscles every day. Because every day when you go out, the world will have a tendency to push you, to make you, go along the way the world wants you to go. And you got to say no. And practicing those values, it's not for the spineless coward. You need to have the guts to say no. You need to be strong at times. It's not about being calm, being kind. When you have to say no, you need to say no. And now, where do you get the inspiration from? Let's try to do something here. You're in for a game? You're too quiet. I don't know if the leader of the opposition comes and we think of his PNQ and he's around. So let's try a little game. And I just want you, and the one who gets this right gets the first book. Right? You have one, I think, here. So I just want you to just look around in this room right now. Let's play this game and find, the color blue. Xavier will be happy. Okay, let me know how many of you look around, just look around, and how many of you can see how many number of blues. 1, 2, 3, you have 15 seconds. Let's do that. Start. Look around, blue, look around, find blue, find blue, find blue. How many pieces of blue do you see? How many pieces of blue do you see? Look around. How many? Okay, who saw? How many yellow did you see? in this time? Did you see yellow this time? Or were you... See, it happens to you. When you buy a certain car, you see only that car, isn't it? That's because what you focus on, you see that. Simple as that. You're focusing on blue, you didn't see any yellow for this time. Now you ask me, where do I see the inspiration? My focus was on finding inspiration every day. I remember going to a school invited by the kids a few months ago, and I was just playing with the leaves. And I touch a leaf, and the leaf closes. You've seen this leaf. And that inspires me. And I wrote a page about it. And when you touch it, when you're threatened, you close your heart, isn't it? But can you live with your heart closed all the time? No. When the threat is over, you've got to open your heart. But sadly, many people live with that threat in their mind, despite the threat being over. So the leaf is a source of inspiration for me.
We live in a world where everyone is seeing blue, and very little amount of people are seeing the yellow bits. It's a bit like the example that you gave about prepping yourself in the morning, so that it's almost hearing you say that you shield yourself, if I get it right, from any external factors in the world that you go to every day. But that is the real world. That is the world that we've got to live with, the people that we have to deal with. So in order to be able to, let me reverse the question. Do you think that, taking into consideration what I've just said, do you think there's still place for ethics
Wow.
in the world that we live in?
Tough question, eh? Yeah. I thought we were friends, Kabir. There's a seat here. Please come, have a seat here. Yeah. Come. Yeah, it's just a nice place. You can't be standing there even if you're late. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. Ethics has a place here. Let me share with you a little story. There was this guy, Monty Roberts. He's a writer too. So Monty Roberts, I'll tell you about his character, how he is. So when he was a kid, they were asked to do an assignment at school, and Monty Roberts came back after a week. He drew, a stable over 200 acres. He had a big house on that, and his teacher gave him grade F, and asked him to go back. And then he asked his teacher, why did you give me F grade for this project? It took me 7 days to do that. And the teacher said, no, it's unrealistic. That big farm, you don't have the money, you can't do that. So he came home and spoke to his dad. His dad didn't help him deliberately and said, Monty, you got to think about what you want to do in the future, and you think. So he thought about it, went back after a week, and Monty told his teacher, you keep your F grade, I'm going to keep my dream. That's a little bit about this 11-year-old guy, Monty Roberts. But then, as you said, reality sets in. He grew up and wanted to become this horse trainer. And he had 4 malheureux horses to train. And that would hardly allow him to earn money to feed his family. And he had only one client that gave him these 4 horses, and that was the only money he could earn. And after some time, he got a call from one of the biggest horse trainer in US to come and be his assistant. So Monty went there, and this guy his name was Don. And after 10 weeks of internship with Don said, go back to your client and tell him his horses are useless and return it to him. Now Monty was in a fix. The only money he would get was from these 4 horses. And now his guru is telling him, the boss of trainers telling him, go back and return those horses. And Monty said, why do you want me to do that? That's suicide for me, right? Not only I won't have money, but maybe my family will leave me. And then Don told him, why you should do that? It's the right thing. You see, these horses are useless. He called his client and said, please, come and take back your horses. So his client wasn't happy at all. He said, the only thing I think is useless is you. I'm going to take my horses and you won't have any horse from now on. And, after a few weeks, he got a call from a guy called Joe Gray. Joe Gray was actually at that time the biggest horse owner in US, in the country. And he said, I was having lunch with one of your previous clients. He doesn't seem to love you a lot. But I want to tell you one thing. We all knew that he has useless horses, but all the trainers were taking his money from you. And I think right now, on the market, there's only one guy like you who is truly honest. And I'm going to give you all my horses to train. Because in business, the most valuable asset is a man of values. He went on to train even the Queen's horses. And many students come to me at school and ask me, what career should I take? I said, simple. Become a good man. There's not much competition in that field. So I think, it takes guts, and you really need to believe that, ultimately you'll succeed. Yeah.
So, coming to my last question, Sudheer, I read this book, and I've been keeping the book with me everywhere I go in the car, because it's become almost like a daily guide. You guys will see when you read the book, it's got so many little stories that makes it very interesting, even after you've read it the first time. And I'm not blowing your trumpet here, but I feel that this book is almost complete, or shall I say complete. What happens next? What do you do next? Do you write another book, or how do you? Because obviously, yes, there are characters, yes, there are stories, but when you read the book, you realize it's what you're saying is beyond the stories. It's really telling us about how to live our lives, how to think. A lot of emphasis on perception versus reality, happiness. And when I read about that, I'm asking myself, well, how do you go further? What do you write next? Is this a one-off from you?
Oh, okay. No, I got some projects. I'm starting a new course, PhD, in the coming weeks. So I wanted to launch this so that I can focus on the next one. And about the book being complete, I think I disagree. I think looking at the vastness of the universe, looking at how many knowledge is out there in this world, I think this book is a drop in the ocean. It's very tiny compared to all the knowledge and wisdom that exists in the universe. So I really don't think it's complete, but I think it's a good start. And I'll keep writing. That's for sure, because my aim with this book, in Mauritius, when you publish a book, the day you print it, you'll never get your money back. So it's not my core activity as a writer, but I write it's my way of serving society. It's my way of touching people's life. And also, I'll be using some of the proceeds from the book, because I really believe that there are people suffering out there, and I can get funds from the book to go out and serve the community. But surely, I think I'll keep writing. And something that happens to me, it took me 2-3 years to write this book. But when I go back, after 2-3 years, you evolve as a person. And you go back and say, man, that's not deep enough. So I think I'll revisit it and I'll keep writing, because every day you learn something new.
When you're saying that, it's reminding me of maybe a question I wanted to ask you. Is this something that you've written with advanced planning, or is it that because the feeling that I get is it's almost like you've gone out to work, or you've gone for your running. I know you love your running in the morning, and then you come back, you get inspired, and you write, because it's so fresh, and the stories makes you actually visualize what you're doing. Was it this, or has it been a lot of advanced planning?
No advanced planning. I'm a very spontaneous person, and no, I sat down. I felt inspired. I see something. I remember I was chilling out on the beach, and I wrote. You would say chapter on waves, and I still remember I was in shorts. Sand between the toes. It was a summer afternoon, and everybody was chilling out, and this guy was writing on the beach. So, I mean, it's like one page at a time. I'm not a contractual writer. And I write, and I remember I sit down, I like, try to understand myself. I untie the knots that's there, the blocks within me, and I compile those blocks and put it on paper. So, I mean, we all go through lives, but there are some crazy guy like me. When they go through life, they press the rewind, they look at what they've gone through and put it on paper for you guys to read. And I share in that my challenges and how I've made it, and how on some days, you break down and all that. So I don't break down a lot, but how I made it and where I struggle as well. So it was like one page a day, one chapter at a time. But it was really a form of, if I could put it, a form of meditation. Because when I was writing, I remember sitting down and writing and writing and writing and writing, and suddenly you look at the clock, it's like 2 hours is gone, and you don't feel time. Maybe people think like 2 hours is like a long thing or a short thing, but actually it's the emotion. When you get bored, like if you're getting bored with me, you feel like, oh my God, it's like 2 hours being sitting here, but actually it's 20 minutes. But when you're really immersed in something, when you're really focused, when you're really enjoying it, the sense of time is something really different. What is actually 2 hours for me when I sit down and write felt like 20 minutes. So it's really something that I was enjoying, very spontaneous, to answer your question, and one page at a time and one experience of it.